Hey everyone. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Well, not bad. A lot of this chapter did feel like filler because while there were still some key moments and takeaways that I do want to talk about, the thing about this chapter is it didn't feel like we learned anything new or anything we didn't already know or speculate about. Like, I'll just get this out of the way, but I guess the relics are just inconsequential now. Just nothing new for us to learn about them or why they're important outside of they'll lead us to Mother, if that is still their intended purpose. Because it's been kind of fascinating to me how within this whole chapter and just within that whole conversation that had both Nadia and Rachel involved, mind you. Nadia being the keeper of the Mother Beacon, and Rachel having a whole religion dedicated to time and I guess to Mother as well, and just knowing where Mother is. It's fascinating to me how the relics weren't even acknowledged by either of these two characters. And I get it, different world and all that, but you'd think at bare minimum we'd at least learn some small or overlooked detail about the relics we weren't told about. And to me, this is just, again, maybe I'm projecting on my own expectations for this series, but this is just another indicator to me that says Mashima just didn't know where to take this plot thread. Moving on, not thought that at all. Like, that's kind of what this feels like. Like, I'm sorry to say, but like, a lot of this did kind of feel like filler. Like, we didn't get a whole lot addressed with it. Now, moving on from that though, we do get a pretty insane reveal that as we get reintroduced to Elsie and Rachel as the government representatives of their respective corners of the universe. So while Elsie is queen, she serves double duty as the Union Army's director of operations in K-Day Cosmos, while Rachel serves as a director of operations in the Yukino Cosmos. And honestly, both of these reveals are very intriguing to me because with the reveal that both Elsie and James are king and queen of Lendard in this world, we get the following confirmation that Shia still became God Act Noella, showing there are still some things that remain the same in Universe Zero, but that also has me asking the question just how Shia's turn played out in this world and came to be, because again, the fact that Elsie is queen says they managed to subvert a civil war from happening, if at all. So how did Shia fall from power is my question. And I do believe that brief moment of silent acknowledgement from Homura is kind of Mashima's way of setting her up to do the deed of killing her. Like here, like Elsie basically pleads with the Eden Zero crew to kill her, and that moment he did. Mashima switched focus to Homura, so I think Homura is going to be the one to fight God Act Noella, which, if that is the case, I'm all for that shit, let me tell you. Of course, Rachel is the other intriguing side of this coin, because with the reveal of her being one of the highest ranking officials in the government, it also kind of shows that I guess the church has fully reconciled with its dark past and become a more public body within society. But I guess, obviously Mashima doesn't really directly reference the church anymore, the church within this chapter, but that's kind of what I have to assume has happened now. But I'm also, like, just from the garb that Rachel and Connor are wearing in this chapter, it's still very much kind of church garb if you think, it's still very much like kind of religious garb if you think about it, so it's like, I think there is something going on there. But I'm sorry. My cynicism keeps nagging at me, telling me the way things keep getting resolved with the Church of Saintfire for me. It's all happening way too easy. Like, there's got to be some kind of angle to this. Like, something, like, again, maybe it's my projection and my own expectations, but it feels like Mashima's just resolving shit with them way too easily. Like, something is hiding in the shadows with the church. It's just a matter of what that is that's kind of bugging me, I guess you could say. Now, with that said, there's a lot of little character moments to talk, moments and details I really liked within this chapter as well. Like, for example, Saint Valkyrie acknowledged the fact that there are a lot of people who have allied with the crew is kind of interesting, and because when you see her facial expression in this chapter, how she seems to be processing this information is very much that expression of sort of awkwardness of not knowing anyone at a party. It's similar to that, but I think there even more so. I think there's a silent acknowledgement on Valkyrie's part in this moment where she realizes, yeah, I have missed a lot. It's only now hitting her that because her other self died in the previous world, she already missed out on so much, and now she's realizing in full force by meeting everyone that the crew has become acquainted with that they have come a long way, that they have, and that these experiences and they have gone through their own experiences, but she wasn't there for any of them, and she especially wasn't there for Homura. And I think in some part of her, even though it's not shown to us, I think she is feeling a little bit of guilt now, a little, and just that she just wasn't there for any of them to help, in order to help them and to have these experiences with them. And I think in that respect, she also feels alienated for not having. She feels alienated in that sense for not being able to be with the other Starshines, to be with the crew during this moment. So I think it's a little bit of regret on Valkyrie's part, that Valkyrie is feeling in this moment. On the other hilarious end of the spectrum, though, I absolutely loved Rebecca's interactions with Rachel and Connor in this chapter, as she has basically come full circle in becoming every kid who gets embarrassed by their parents. And okay, I gotta say, seeing Rachel with her face up so close to the projection screen, saying I love you, Puddin', I love you, Ducky Poo, all that shit, that the whole thing with the bottom half of her face on the screen zoomed in, all that shit, that has the pure energy of a mom not knowing how technology works, and it was hilarious. Like no offense to any moms, love you guys, but it just had the same vibe of just a mom or just a parent in general who just does not know how to work technology, which in itself makes me wonder. Which in itself makes me wonder if Mashima based that moment off an experience he had with his own mother, because for those who may be unaware, Mashima grew up in a more rural part of Japan, and if I understand correctly, at the time he was growing up, things like the internet and technology were not necessarily not there, but they were definitely more limited in those areas at the time. So I'm imagining in my head a scenario of Mashima a grown-up adult Mashima having to teach his mom how to use something like FaceTime or Skype, and he recreated that moment in this chapter with Rebecca and Rachel. Like, I don't know if that's the case, but it just kind of feels like this is an experience Mashima's had, just from how, honestly, a little bit too real it felt. But on a smaller note as well, I liked how we do get to see Andrew actually got married to Nadia. Like, it's a nice way of knowing that at least in one universe they got properly reunited and are living a happy life together. Like, it's a nice consolation for them, even if back in our universe, well, we know what happened. But okay. Also, I really like how Mashima just outed both Elsie and James in this chapter by having their respective retainers just flat out say, yeah, that they would do that with James, but by James's retainers, one being Jesse, I guess, but I'll leave that alone. Like them calling James out for calling himself Justice, and then Elsie's retainers calling her out for becoming a pirate. Like these characters know these two a little too well, although a little too well. Like, it's one of those moments where you say it's just a bunch of friends who know each other too well, and they got no problem taking jabs at them. Like, it's that kind of energy that I do love. I do gotta say though, with James/Justice being revealed to be the King of Lendard now, that pretty much eliminates him off the list of known people for who could be Lightning Law. So I'm left wondering who I'm left wondering who the hell even is Lightning Law now, because right now there's no other character I'm aware of in the Eden Zero world that could be Lightning Law. At least no one we know specifically. The only scenario that makes any sense to me right now is that Lightning Law might potentially be another of the Knights of the Dancing Sakura. Most likely Ogia, honestly, because he's the only one who we know of who survived the Dark Ages alongside Zenith. And that honestly would create a rather interesting dynamic of seeing one of the heroes of the Sakura Cosmos succumb to evil in comparison to Zenith, who maintained his morality and his sense of beliefs even when he ultimately transferred his body to a robot. In fact, if Lightning Law is one of Zenith's comrades, it might actually provide interesting insight into why Zenith became a robot, and just in general what happened to the Knights in the tail end of the Dark Ages when they put an end to it, and how that could tie into what's currently going on with Eden's 1, because I'm more convinced now than ever after this chapter that this isn't the first time Eden's 1 has popped up in the series history. In fact, I think if it was the thing that started, I don't be surprised if I think we can all basically say it was Eden's 1 that probably started the Dark Age at the time, and now that Dark Age is returning. Like, it would kind of all fit when you think about it. And yeah, final thing I do got to talk about in this section is Noah did get me feeling bad for him. Like, everyone's got their special someone, and he's forever alone, forever bachelor. Like, I feel you, man. I feel you. But yeah, as a whole, not much more to say. This chapter really just felt like an official send-off chapter, sending the crew on their way to face Eden's 1, which is, again, it's fine in itself, but, and for as much as I have praised this chapter in this review, I don't know, maybe, again, my expectations were a little too high or something, but I expected a little more than what we got out of this chapter. I will say, though, the tone of this chapter definitely felt me feeling a little concerned for the fate of the crew, because, again, with it being a send-off chapter, but before them continuing their journey and facing off against Eden's 1, it does make you wonder how many are going to live and how many are going to die. Like, again, this feels like we're getting an idea more so of how the Dark Ages ended up starting, and